Can you guys see me and hear me clearly? Yeah? Awesome, great. So we'll begin the class, right? And we'll do the prayer. So just try to follow through. If you cannot chant it with closed eyes, so just open that image that I have sent you and just try to match the sound with the word for now. Okay. So slowly you will be able to chant it, right? So sit comfortably, keeping the back and neck straight. And when you feel ready, very gently close your eyes. And bring the mind to the breathing. Just observe your breath as it is. Don't change the flow of the breathing. Slowly take the awareness to the body. Make sure you are in your posture. The body is properly aligned. So take a few moments to adjust your body posture. And just keep the body comfortable and stable. Slowly bring the attention back to the breathing. And begin to deepen your breathing. Slow, long, and deep inhalations. Slow, long, and deep exhalations. We will be chanting Om 3 times, followed by the Shanti mantra. Exhale completely and inhale for Om. 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 Shanti. 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 Inhale for Om. We'll begin the chanting of the mantra. Om. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah. Sarve santu niramayah. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschit dukhabhag bhavet. Ma kaschit dukhabhag bhavet. Inhale for Om. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Just feel the vibrations. Join the palms together and rub the palms together. Keep them on the eyes. Very slowly, while blinking and looking at the palms, begin to open up your eyes. Start coming back with a smile. And Namaste to everyone. Okay. So first thing, are you guys able to understand the chanting? Are you guys able to or follow through on this?
Some words are a bit difficult because the connection is not that good. Like sometimes there is a like background sound.
Yeah.
Can you?
Right now I'm like on mobile network. Wi-Fi is not working. That is why maybe the voice broke for you guys.
Can you send us? Can you send us maybe an audio message with the chanting that we can practice it?
Yes. So I'll send you a YouTube video, right? So you guys can. I'll post it on the group today, so you guys can listen to that also.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay. So let's begin today's session. Yeah, I know it's a good idea. That didn't cross my mind. Yeah. So today we are going to discuss one of the major things that really comes up in your classes, right? So the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, right? Patanjali Patanjali Yoga Sutra. So this is a very important text for you guys. Even though we will not be studying this text, it's very important for you to know about this text. Like as yoga students, you should know that, this text is there because this is the foundation of the yoga philosophy, right? So whenever, we talk of yoga philosophy, immediately this name or this text is joined with that. So they are kind of inseparable. It is the yoga philosophy, right? And when we were discussing the history and development, I told you guys that this text is the one which systematized the entire process of yoga, right? Before this text, it was scattered, right? But then the systematization took place. So it is very important for us, like as students, to know about this, right? So, like I told you before, also Maharishi Patanjali, he is considered to be the father of classical yoga. So this is a text of classical yoga, right? Main text, right? And in Sanskrit, we call it Yoga Darshan. Okay, I told you about Darshan also. A text for Yoga Darshan, YOGADARSHAN, right? So, Yoga Darshan means darshan, I told you before also, you're trying to see something. So now you are trying to see something which cannot be seen through the eyes, through the process of yoga. That is what Yoga Darshan is. Darshan is trying to see something which cannot be perceived through the senses, right? Through some process, right? And when we join the term yoga with this term, right? So how are we trying to see? Through the process of yoga, right? That is how we are trying to see now. So whenever some philosophy is attached to this, so the method of seeing, you understand how you have to see. So now you are going to see the things through the process of yoga, right? So this text, it has its root in Sankhya philosophy. This also I told you before in the first class only. SAMKHYA, Sankhya philosophy. This, if you want to understand this philosophy well, like right now you're practicing, right? Because it's more of a practical approach. It's telling you how to implement. But if you want to go into the theoretical base roots of this philosophy, then you have to study pair, right? Two of them you will have to study, and main theoretical background you will get in the Sankhya philosophy, right? And then this will also begin to make more sense to you guys, right? So both of them are very, very like closely knit when it comes to seeing the way in which you approach something, right? So being free from all the sufferings, how do you approach that philosophy, why it is being said to approach it in this way? This will become more clear as you go into the Sankhya philosophy, right? So if you want to study too much, if you like studying a lot, then you can go look up this philosophy as well. But because we will be covering yoga philosophy in these classes, but if for extra knowledge, or if you really like reading, right, so you can go ahead and do pursue that also. Just give me a moment. Okay, yeah. Now it should be better. The Wi-Fi is back. Okay. So, before I start to teach this, there are a lot of stories that are connected to this person, right? Patanjali ji, right? And it's always good to hear stories. Why not? Right? So there are many stories about his life, even though, is my video getting like, is it breaking? It's okay. Oh, cool. So, his exact time, like a lot of people believe he was in a particular time, right? But there nothing very concrete is known about his life, basically, right? So the stories are also something like that. Some story. Oh, whose story? Yes, yes, yes. Yes, so the author of this text, basically, his story. How did he come over here, right? So there are a lot of stories around it, and they are quite interesting, right? But some of them I will tell you right now only, right? So one story is like goes this way that over here in India we have a very famous god known by the name of Lord Vishnu. Okay, and you don't have to know the names and everything. He's just like for basic understanding, he's just a god, right? And quite well known in Indian culture, right? So he is said to rest on um, sofa, kind of, you can say. He sits on a serpent, okay, with 1,000 heads, okay. So like any other mythology, Indian mythology also has its own quirks and like very typical detailing, right? So he sits on this snake, right, with 1,000 faces, and this snake is called Adi Shesh, right? And one time, Lord Vishnu was just resting and he closed his eyes, right? And as soon as he closed his eyes, he immediately, like, sometimes, we also dream and those dreams seem very real, right? So in that same way, when he went into sleep, he immediately got connected to where Lord Shiva was. And I told you Lord Shiva is a point of origination of yoga, right? So, and Lord Shiv, if you even Google him, you will see his dance is very famous. Your one of your asanas is called Natraj Asana, right? And that is actually Shiva's dancing pose, right? And he is very well known for his dance. Yeah. So as soon as Vishnuji, fell asleep, he immediately got connected to Lord Shiva, where he was dancing, and he had this like proper view into his, like, he was dancing somewhere, and he somehow just got connected, like we look at the TV. So sometimes when we dream, he immediately got connected to really where the dance was going, right? And he was able to see, and he was really enchanted by the dance of Lord Shiva, right? And like, if there is a particular energy in the room, you guys also feel that thing. So suppose one of us, we yawn, right? All of us will start yawning because we catch that energy very soon, right? So if one student in my class sitting over here, they start yawning, I see all others have started yawning, right? Only one was feeling sleepy, and then everybody ends up feeling sleepy because the energy is such, it spreads, right? If you are in an environment where you are very excited, where everybody is very excited, so you go and you also get very excited, right? So in that same way, when he saw him dancing, the state of mind in which Lord Shiva was, he experienced that thing, right? He was in a very peaceful and that kind of energy. He came into that energy. So as soon as that happened over here, where when he was sitting, his body became very, very heavy, right? And the serpent was just unable to hold him. It was very tough for the serpent to hold him, and the serpent was just about to give up. He was just saying the weight is too much, right? And at that point of time, immediately Lord Vishnu woke up, right? His sleep, he came out of sleep, and immediately his body got light again, right? So as soon as you also walk out of a party, right, everybody is excited, you walk out, after a while, you come back into your own energy, right? So same thing, when he woke up, he got disconnected to that thing, and immediately his body also came back to normal, right? So it became light, right? So the serpent was really confused. He was just like, what just happened? Your body became so heavy and suddenly it became so light. So Lord Vishnu, he told the serpent that this had happened. I got connected in this way, and that is why my body, became very heavy. And then again, when I came out, it became light, right? So the serpent, he really wanted to dance for his, Lord Vishnu was like a master only if the serpent was like a place of resting, right? So he really wanted to learn this art of dancing, right? So that he could please Lord Vishnu. He could be the one who could give him that kind of like, make him experience that thing, right? So he had this very deep desire, right? And when he discussed this with Lord Vishnu said, Lord Shiva will give you a blessing where you will come on earth, right? So until then you meditate, right? So until then he was just meditating, preparing himself for going, was coming over here to learn this art form, right? And yogi, for a yogi to come into this world, the parents are very important, right? Because their energy is quite different from us, right? Like if you even see the story of Jesus, right? Very selective parents were there, right? Not anybody was just, oh, I broke up. The snake, the serpent. The serpent was the one who started working on his meditation, right? So I was telling you that, yeah, for a yogi to come into this world, it's very difficult, right? It's like a train, right? And the train is not getting the right track, right? So the track for a yogi to come into this world, it's very limited, right? Because not everybody can be a parent of a yogi, right? You will see that all the yogis who have come on this earth, their parents are quite, wisely selected, right? So in that same way, it's very difficult for them to come over here. Like we are like, you know, we are mostly mistakes, I would say, right? But for a yogi, there is a lot of planning that is done, right? Even if you see the story of Jesus, Mary, she carried him, right? So the parent also has to have the potential, right, to carry the yogi, right? So at that point of time, they were also looking for someone who could, give birth to him, right? So when like there was a yogini over here, she had learned a lot and practiced a lot, and she wanted to have a son, right? And she wanted that she like, or whatever she had learned, she could pass down that knowledge. Like your parents, they pass down some traditions to you. So it's every parent's, I can say, desire to have whatever they have, they hold as traditions for their further generations to carry. So she was also having that kind of desire, and she had totally given up, right? It had been years, and she was just like, okay, one last time, let me go and pray. So over here, you will see, we offer water to sun, right? Because the sun is the center, right, of our all the planets, right? For our set of planets, I forgot the term for it, solar system, right? So people, in a lot of traditions, people used to pray to the sun, right? Not only in Indian tradition. So we offer water to the sun, right? So she as a last attempt to have a child, right? She went out, she took some water in her hand and she prayed, right, with that water in her hand to the sun, right? And at that time, the serpent also got the blessing that now you can go to earth, right? So the timing matched, and as she was praying, suddenly, a very tiny snake appeared in her hand, right? And then that snake took the form of a little a boy child, right? And Patanjali, right? So Pat means to fall, okay? And Anjali is this hand position when you hold water like this, So his mom named him Patanjali for this reason, right? Because he came into her hand, right? So as if he had fallen, right? So I don't have logical basis for mythological stories, and I would highly recommend you also don't try to find it, because you will never find answers. And stories have this magic only because they are quite magical in this sense. They don't make sense, basically, right? So it's just a story. Don't start questioning, how did this happen? This does not happen. This is not biology, right? But stories are stories, just enjoy them. Yeah. And then when he came on this earth, he further propagated yoga, he systematized yoga, and not only that, he has also been said to perfect the art of dance. So he learned what he had come here for, and he perfected the art of dance like Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva's specific dance, he perfected that thing, right? So one story is this, one more story, why not? Right? So another story is when he was giving this information, okay? So when he wanted to transmit this information, he said that I want 1,000 students. Okay, when I'm teaching, I want 1,000 students, right? And his second condition was, when I am giving you this knowledge, right, there would be a curtain or veil between me and the students, right? So basically, if I turn my video off, right, something like that for you guys, that you won't be able to see me, but you will be able to hear me, right? And that your learning completely changes when you are not able to see me, just hear me, right? And then it changes when you are able to see me and hear me both. So everybody was very like that. They wanted to have that information. So they said, we will meet you on both your demands. Okay. We will gather 1,000 people, and we will make the space such that you are not seen while you are transmitting this knowledge. So, okay, place was decided, time was decided, 1,000 people gathered, and Patanjali ji also, he came in, right? And when he sat down, so he was not transmitting knowledge like we generally do, right? Like I am speaking something, right? He was transmitting knowledge in another manner, in like a manner where the students could experience what he was saying, right? So it was more about the, like sometimes, you just sit over somewhere and you feel good, something like that. So he was basically transmitting the knowledge in a way that everybody was able to feel what he's saying rather than the sound coming out, right? So, and everybody was able to gain that knowledge, right? So what actually happened was, at that point of time, when this kind of knowledge is given, it does make a person feel very good, right? So they were feeling very, very amazing. They were just like, what is happening? We did not anticipate that the teaching would be given in this way, right? And like I told you, energy, it spreads, right? So if one of you is excited, all of you will start becoming, even I will get excited, right? I will match your energy, right? So what happened was, one of them became curious that who is giving this knowledge, and the condition was nobody will see him when he was transmitting that knowledge. But now one got curious, so everybody was already very happy. So then 2 3 other students started getting curious. Then everybody got curious, right? That okay, we have to see who is transmitting this knowledge. So in between this whole thing, one little student, he stepped out because he had to use the washroom, right? So he said that, okay, rather than asking for permission, I will go, I will sneak, right? And I will come back, right? So like sometimes, we also try to get out of the class from the back side only. So something like that. He just went out and he was just like, okay, I don't have to specifically disturb this thing. I can go and then I can come back, right? So till then, the curiosity had reached its like highest level, right? So one of the students, he took the courage and he was just like, I will go and lift this curtain, right? Just to see who is sitting on the other side, right? So as soon as he did that, it is said that everybody, you know, uh, what is the right word? I know the correct word in Hindi, but not in English. So everybody burnt away basically, right? So all the 999 students, they were gone in a flash of second, right? Because they just lifted the curtain, right? And that is why, when the yogi is saying something, there is some sense behind it. And that is why he said that, put some barrier between me and you when I'm transmitting this, right? So and at that point of time, the little boy, he stepped back in, right? So now Patanjali ji was also very heartbroken. He was just, hey, I was transmitting this knowledge so that it could reach everyone. 1,000 people would spread it among so many people, right? And now only one was left, right? So when the student stepped back in, he saw the student and he called the student, right? And he was just say, where were you? Right? And earlier, it's not like these days teachers, students are not afraid, right? Earlier students were very afraid, right? So if they did something which was, not supposed to be done, they used to be very, very afraid to even give that answer, even if it was something which was like, very natural, right? He just had to go to the washroom, right? But he was very, very scared, right? So at that point of time, Patanjali, he also did not have an option, right? So he also said, okay, he finished transmitting the rest of the knowledge first, so that the little boy knew everything. Okay. Then he said that, I will give you a blessing. So your blessing is this only. This knowledge is a blessing in itself, right? But because you did not take my permission and you went in between, there is a punishment also, right? So one blessing and one punishment, right? So punishment was given that the boy, he could not, um, you know, get free from his body unless and until he transmits the knowledge to one more person. So he needed to find a student, right? So it is said that thousands of years passed and he couldn't find a student because so he lived on a tree, basically in a forest, right? And when somebody used to pass that path, he used to come and ask them a question. I don't know what the question was, but a particular question in order to judge if the person is capable of receiving that knowledge or not. So for thousands of years, he did not get the answer for the question. And that was a precondition, right, for him to be able to transmit the knowledge. So many people passed and none of them could answer, right? And he became like a demon, right? He lived for thousands of years. So by default, when somebody wasn't able to answer, it was like his automated setting, you can say, that he had to kill that person or eat that person, like you see in a lot of cartoons also, right? So demons do that, right? Like, he did not have the choice. Basically, he had to do it, right? If somebody couldn't answer, right? So thousands of years passed and he couldn't find a student, right? And then Patanjali ji, he only saw him from above and came back over here, right? And became his student. So the teacher, again becoming the student, right, became his student, answered the question, took the knowledge, right? And then he wrote that knowledge down, basically, right? Earlier, the knowledge was being transmitted just like that. So at that point of time, he wrote the knowledge down, right? And the child was also free now, right? And then the Yoga Sutras, came in written form, basically, right? So this is how the story goes, right? So let's come back to topic, right? So this text, I will just give you an overall how it is like designed. So there are 195 sutras. SUTRAS, verses. Sutras are verses. So sutra, this term, I will also tell you the meaning. So sutra is actually in English, it means thread, right? So if you read this text, you cannot just go to any part and read any part. right? It is transmitted in a flow, thread-like flow. So the next thing that is said, it will only make sense if you read the previous one, right? So you cannot jump to the fourth chapter or third chapter and directly start reading. It will not make sense because it was transmitted in a chain-like manner, right? Each and everything had its basis from before what was being said before that, right? So sutra, this term literally means thread only, right? So it is like a chain in which it was transmitted. And sutras are coded language. Okay, so you can say, and then the format in which Bhagavad Gita is written, right? We will have a separate class on that also. That is in another form that is easier to understand. But sutra is, you can understand it, it is coded language. That is why you will see that there are a lot of commentaries on this text, right? So everybody is trying to find their own interpretation, what he was trying to say. Maybe he was trying to say something altogether different. And then people were transmitting, giving commentaries on it so that we could understand, right? As much as they had understood, right? So it's like, it's very coded form. And the more you experience, the better you will be able to understand the Yoga Sutras. So Yoga Sutras, you can read throughout your life and you will spend your life understanding them. So I got to know about them 2 years back and still I find a different meaning, right? It's like that movie that you watch again and again and every time it fits into your life. You find something different in the movie, right? Some movies we watch a lot of times, right? And in different phases of life, that movie, is completely different to us, right? So in that same way, the Yoga Sutras, it doesn't mean that right now it's a part of your course, you just like understand it right now and it's done. No, if you read it at any point of time in your life, you will find meaning in them, and you will find meaning in the sense or the according to the phase through which you are going, right? So that is the uh, best part about some like movies, and in this case this particular text also. So you can read it no matter what age you are at, right? And then if you pick it up after years, then also it will make sense, right? And you will decode it in a very different manner, right? But as you deepen your yoga practice, that is when you will get closer to what he was trying to say, right? So it's just the deepening of your practice which will get you closer to what the actual meaning of the text is, right? And uh, still we are also still breaking it down and trying to understand what actually was said, right? So this text is divided into 4 chapters, right? I take this class a little bit in this sense that I give you the breakdown of the text because I think that if you want to read it, you can read it, right? But you need to know where you will find a particular kind of information in the text. So I teach this topic a little bit mechanical, right? Instead of fitting it into your particular circumstance, because the overall structuring of the text, I believe, should be known, right? So that you don't, when you like read this, you read it properly. Basically, you don't read it just like that, going haywire, then reading this and then reading that. And because we will only be discussing specific topics from this text, so what happens is students tend to just read that topic, right? Like 8 limbs of yoga. So it is mentioned over here. So you will have a tendency to read that first because you are more familiar with it, right? But you will be able to understand the text only if you approach it from the beginning, right? So this class might seem a little bit more mechanical than others, right? So the 4 chapters, they are also like very beautifully presented by him, right? It's not he doesn't tell you what you are supposed to do at the end. he says that in the beginning only get to know what you are signing up for, right? So like we discussed the definition of yoga, right? It is in the beginning only. The second verse I told you, first chapter, second verse in itself gives you the meaning of yoga, right? And the first verse, it is telling you from now, now you are getting the instructions on yoga. So first verse, the meaning is now I am giving the instructions on yoga. So he says that this now, when he starts the text with this term now, right? He uses this term in Sanskrit, right? So he's just saying before this, it doesn't matter what you were doing, right? So before you joined your yoga classes, it doesn't matter what you were doing, right? Now you have undertaken this journey. Now you are going to make a change. Now you are getting this knowledge so you can make a change. So from now onwards, you have to take the responsibility. Before this, it's okay, you know something, you don't know something, you are changing something in your life, you're not changing anything in your life. So he said, before he even gave the definition of yoga, he said, prepare your mind that now you are going to begin to make a change. It doesn't matter what you have done before this, right? You could have done everything haywire before this, but he says, now I'm systematizing this thing for you, right? And now you have to be ready to absorb this knowledge, right? And there would be a before and after. When he uses the term now, he says, before this you were different, and now you are choosing to be different. Now it is totally your responsibility, for you guys also. You will have so many people in your life who will not understand this side of you. They will say, oh, you just did a yoga course, okay, so tell me how I can twist my body better, how I can stretch my body better, tell me some exercises which will help me with this or with that, right? They will not understand the deeper essence of what you are learning, right? Only you are understanding this thing, right? So you will find a lot of people also in your life who will not support this journey, right? They will say, now you have joined a cult, right? Now you are like a cult type of person, right? I'm saying this because it happened with me also, right? So a lot of people, they walk out of your life because they don't support where you are going. So for you guys also, this might happen, right? When you choose to stick with some decision or some lifestyle change, a lot of people will oppose it, right? Because they are unfamiliar with that, right? Unfamiliarity, we don't like being unfamiliar with things, right? Human beings in general, right? So they will try to pull you back, right? So when he used this term from now, he said that now you have made a decision that you will not be pulled back. All of the people around you will still try to pull you back into maybe some lifestyle which doesn't support you, right? And it might have an influence on you. But now you have taken the decision to join a yoga course, right? So, and be more open to learning about maybe changing your diet, right? Or maybe changing the way in which you are conducting your actions. So it becomes your responsibility now that you have chosen this for you, right? If they would choose, your friends or your family will choose this path for themselves, then it will be their responsibility to follow up on, right? It won't become your responsibility to make them follow up on it, right? And you cannot force them also. So I tried this. So when my dad, when I came into yoga, like not my dad so came easily, right? My sister, she doesn't believe in all of this. So she just say, you are crazy, right? She tells me this thing, right? So I tried to, push her, go for this meditation, go learn this. She was just say, no, I'm not going, right? So sometimes it also happens, you find something beneficial for yourself, and then the ones you love, you try to force it on them because you found so much benefit. So you just say, you should also go, then you should also go, right? And that is also something you cannot do. That choice has to be made by that person, right? that person has to choose for themselves what they want to do, right? Or what kind of thing they want to adopt as a lifestyle, right? So I still keep pushing my sister, go do this, go do that. But earlier I was very insistent. You have to. Earlier I was like this. Now I'm just like, take your time. You will also come over here only, I know, right? So you will have to create that space also, right? When you learn something, it will happen that you would really want to tell everybody and want everybody to come and, practice asanas with you or practice pranayama with you, or you will look at people and you'll be like, they can just solve it by sitting straight or they can just solve it by breathing better, right? But everybody has to reach this point in their life on their own, right? So he begins the text with this thing, right? Now you are ready and prepare your mind that you are going to walk on this path, right? And then he tells you what you are stepping into. So second verse gives you the definition. Okay, what are you aiming for, right? What is the final goal, right? Where are you aiming to go? And then he, on the basis of that final goal, he explains each and every term deeply, right? So, like I told you about the mental modifications. So, in the first chapter itself, he tells about the types of mental modifications. We say mental modification. I am using this term again and again: mental modification, fluctuation, right? But what does it mean, right? So, he tells that thing. He has very well systematized the entire text, right? He tells if you follow this path, what is going to happen. If you don't, then what is going to happen, that also he tells, right? And then he tells the kind of fluctuations, he elaborates more on that. Then he moves on to start giving you the solution, right? Solution or the practices that you can adopt, right? So he begins by telling the practices for advanced level student, then he reaches the intermediate and then beginner level student, right? So we are going to mainly study the beginner level. So you will have the tendency to jump to the second chapter and end of second chapter, right, where he has discussed the practices for a beginner. But you will find more flow if you start from the beginning. Oh, what is he trying to say? Acha, that is what he was saying, right? When you start the text from the beginning, right, then you will be like, oh, that is what he was talking about, right? So in the first chapter, he also discusses the concept of God, right? He believes in the concept of God. Right? I'm not saying you should, but he has put this in his text. And then he discusses Pranav or Om. In the first chapter only, he discusses that concept also, which you will again cover in your meditation classes also, the Pranam meditation or the chanting, right? So this you will do in meditation classes. So he has also talked of the that we chant in the beginning and closing of classes. What is that? Right? He has talked about it. So he has discussed a lot of things step by step. In the first chapter, he has mainly discussed the practices for an advanced level student. Why? Because we are just going to start our journey, right? And we will take so much time. But advanced level student doesn't have the time. The advanced level student has been practicing for a very long time, right? And they just need the, like the key ingredients, right, to uh, put in their practice. How can they change the quality of their practice to reach the final goal, right? And he has given the text in this manner that advanced level student is discussed first, because advanced level student does not have the time, right? First reading the beginner level, what beginner level has to do, then intermediate level has to do, then reaching, what I have to do, right? So Patanjali is very intelligent in that way also. He was very intelligent, because he was just like, advanced level student doesn't have the time. Just give them the key ingredients. They have been practicing anyway, and they can move ahead in their journey. So you will see he actually goes in the reverse format, right, of giving the method, right? The beginner will get their solution later on. First advanced level student will get, right? So tomorrow I will tell you more about the chapters and what is given in the chapters, right? But for now, I think you can still work on implementing the perfection in action because it will take some time for you guys. So try to sit for your meals, right, with a little bit more perfection, being over there, more concentrated, right? So you can still keep working on the food, right? How you have to consume the food. And it is actually the broader thing is the how is the part where how each action should be conducted, and food is just a sub part of it, right? So you can work on infusing as much as you can in your life in those two respects, right? Till I give you your next task, right? So any doubts in today's session? No doubts. Awesome. Great. So let's end the class. We'll chant Om one time and Shanti three times. So just keep the back and neck straight and gently close your eyes. Inhale deeply for Om. Om. Shanti. 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 Join the palms together and just bow down. Let's begin our day with a sense of gratitude. All the things we have in our life, just saying a little mental thank you to everything. Wrap the palms together. Keep them on the eyes. Very slowly, while blinking and looking at the palms, begin to open up your eyes. Start coming back with a smile. And namaste everyone. I will see you all for your pranayam class in the afternoon. Enjoy your therapy class. Take care. Bye-bye. You too. Thank you.